Hello, good morning, esteemed students, and welcome to our first online lecture for figure drawing. And since this is our first lecture, I just want to list a few things that you'll be needing for the figure drawing class. This class is a purely practical coursework, and you're going to do a lot of practical drawings. You're going to do a lot of assignments, and I'll do a lot of demonstrations for you to follow along. And I'll put some figure drawing books in the resource folder as reference materials for you to follow along and do all the assignments. So let me just start by mentioning some of the things you need. You need a pencil, you need a cutter, not a blade, a cutter. And I think the cutter helps you sharpen the pencil very well to needle point. If you look at how well I've sharpened my pencils, can you zoom in for them to see the pencils? Sorry. Yes. So if you can see how sharp my pencils are, that is the type of sharpening we are looking at. And you might need sandpaper to rub your pencils to get these fine tips for you to get very crisp lines. And while you're drawing along the line, you have to be sharpening your pencil and rubbing it on the sandpaper to get a really needle point pencil. And when you do this, it always makes your line very sharp and crisp, because if the pencil is blunt and you draw, you don't get that sharpness. Okay, so you need a pencil, you need a cutter, you need sandpaper, you need a sketchbook, an A3 sketchbook, you need newsprints, you need a drawing board, and you need drawing clips to fasten or hold your newsprint papers onto the drawing board. Okay, so I think I'll list all these things in the online platform for you to get all these tools and materials for us to have a really nice engaging lecture. Okay, so without further ado, I'll start with our first lesson. And since we are going to learn how to draw the human figure, we will start by breaking the body parts into very, very basic shapes and elements that you can follow along easily. And then when you master the human proportions and the body parts with these basic elements, we'll progress to adding more detailed elements to the figure. So you make that smooth and easy transition from beginner to master. Okay, so we start with the figure, the full figure, but then we'll have to break it down into very small units before we can have the full figure. So we start with the head, and with the head, the basic shape that we use in representing the head is an egg. So because the human head is more like an egg shape, even though there are different head shapes, the egg shape is the average shape that we use in representing a human head. Of course, there are different types of head shapes, and we'll come to that. But for now, we'll just start with the very basic ones. We'll start with the egg shape, and then we'll proceed to start drawing the full figure, and then you see what the various body parts are. Okay, so let me just start with the egg shape. And one of the key skills that you need to build is first start by drawing with faint lines. Okay, because you don't need an eraser when you are doing general drawing or figure drawing, because if you use an eraser and you're always cleaning, I can't see the mistakes that you are making. But if you draw without an eraser, you build that competence, you build that skill, you build that courage in drawing. So you start with very faint lines, and when you make a mistake, go over your mistakes. And by now, or at this stage, you can feel free to make all the mistakes that you can make, and then I'll correct you, and then you proceed along and learn to overcome those mistakes. Okay, so let's start by drawing some faint lines for the egg shape. So if you have your A3 sketchbooks, you might want to do at least a whole line of egg shapes over here and another one over here. So we just start with very faint lines. If you can zoom in, that would be good. Start with faint lines, and you go over your lines. And it's important to know how to hold the pencil. Ideally, you should hold the pencil at the base. If you hold the pencil at the base, it gives you more room to move your wrist. You have that flexibility. But if you hold it here like the way you are holding your pencil when you are writing my first copy book, you see you have limited movement. You can't move your hand, and your drawing becomes very rigid and plastic. You don't have that natural feel with your drawings and your figures. But if you hold the pencil at the base, and make sure that always you have enough room to hold the pencil properly, not short pencils. At least the pencil should be long enough for you to have more room to freely move your hand and draw on the sketchbook. Okay, so let's continue with the egg shape. You start with very, very faint lines first. Right? And you go over your lines. When you have your faint lines, you can go over them to get that accuracy with the tip. You can go over the faint lines with the tip to get very sharp lines. When you're starting with the faint lines, you need to have more room to hold your pencil well, and then maybe I have to draw more for you to follow along. So just take it easy. Always start with faint lines and go over your lines. Feel free to go over your lines. You can't get it accurate in just one stroke since you're beginners. So I'm sure some of you, of course, have background in drawing, but those who are drawing or taking the drawing class for the first time, it's important to start with very faint lines and go over your lines to build that skill. Okay, let me draw a big one over here for you to see. So maybe you might want to fill your whole page with egg shapes like how I've started over here. You can draw some more to get the whole page filled with egg shape. At least maybe you can do 10 on a page. And like I said, feel free to go over your lines. faint lines and then go over your lines. Okay, so you might want to do a few more pages of this to build your skill and your competence in getting the egg shape right. And when you're done, you can do some more on your own before you try out the next exercise. Okay, so we'll move on straight to our next exercise, which is drawing the full figure. And to draw the full figure, you need to know how many or the different body parts with the different proportions that make you have a complete human figure. And usually the human figure is made up of 7.5 head lengths. So what we mean by this is that if you take the length of your head from the crown of your head to the base of your chin, it's able to fit into your body 7.5 times. That's the average standard human proportion. But of course, we have people who are slightly shorter than the average human height, and we have people who are slightly taller. But some of these heights do not characterize the average height for the average human figure. So we usually go with the average, which is 7.5 head length. You might have 5, 6 for people who are slightly shorter, and you might have 8 head lengths for people who are thick, tall, like those action figures in the movies you've been watching. So let's start with the full figure drawing, and you might want to start with a simple faint line. It doesn't have to be deep. A very simple faint line. And then you do your divisions. So you have 1 head length over here. Now the trick to be able to get the proportions right, if you take 1 head length, that same measurement, that same units of measurement should follow through from the first unit till the end of the figure, or to the base of the figure. So I'll show you how to go about that. You can just easily use your pencil to measure from the tip. Let me start numbering them. So maybe you might want to put 0 here and 1. You start numbering from 0. Okay, so you can use your pencil to measure from the tip of, or from the very first division of 0 to 1. So you hold, let me use my left to hold so that you can see. So you make sure that the tip of the pencil is on top of 0, and then you hold it at 1, the base of 1. So now this is your unit of measurement for each head length, and this measurement is what you use right from beginning to where you reach the base of the figure. But some of you might have that sharp eye and natural flow to just use your eye to gauge and get all these measurements right. But if you feel you're a beginner and you're not sure of how accurate your drawing will be, I think it's best to just use the unit of measurement to measure through. Okay, so you might want to place your finger on the next unit of measurement, and then you mark. So now you have 2 over here, and then you put your finger over here. You have 3, then you have 4, you have 5, you have 6, 7, and then you might want to just measure maybe half over here, somewhere here, and then you put the half at the base. Okay, so you have 7.5. I'll start numbering them for you to see. So this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, 6, 7, then you have 7.5. Okay, all right, so now the egg shape that you just drew. Okay, before that we might need to do a few more measurements. You might have to divide 1 and 2. Can you zoom in, please? Yeah, you might want to divide 1 and 2 into 3 equal parts. So I'm just using my own discretion to gauge and have these 3 equal parts. Okay, so then maybe you have 1A and then 1B. Okay, now to make sure that your drawings and your proportions are falling exactly where they have to fall, maybe you might want to extend the lines a bit to get all those details right. So extend 1 over here, extend 1A over here, and then I think that's all you need to do for now. Okay, so let's get the egg shape. Let's start with the egg shape. So you put your egg shape on the first division between 0 and 1. You have your egg shape here. Start with very faint lines. Good. So we have our egg shape. Now we'll move on to drawing the torso. Okay, and with the torso you might start by measuring slightly the 2 head lengths, one to the right and another one to the left. Okay, they are almost 2 head lengths, but they are not 2 head lengths. If you do it 2 head lengths, it will become the chest will become too broad. So maybe you might want to use something that's slightly shorter than the first head length, slightly shorter, and then you get one here and you get another one over here. And now when you are drawing the figure, make sure that the line is always in the center, dividing the figure into 2 equal parts. So whatever division you have here or whatever proportion you have here should be a mirror reflection of what is over here, because the human figure is asymmetrical. The half over here is mirrored on the other half. That's how come you have a very balanced figure as a person. Okay, so let's use just this simple arc to represent the shoulder blade over here. So you go from here to here. Still draw with very faint lines. Good. Now we'll put the neck in there. The neck sits right below the jaws. Then it touches the shoulder blade over here. Like this. Good. So we have the neck. Okay, now what we are going to do is draw the base for the torso, and the base, please zoom in over here. Let's have a big close-up over here. So the base of the shoulder blade is slightly a nudge above 0.3, just like that. And this place you can usually just use, I think one head length is okay, but it needs to be in the center. Okay, so one head length is okay for the base. Then you connect this place, the torso, the top, the upper part of the torso to the lower part. The simple line. Do the same for here as well. Good. And then you do the same for the pelvic area, the waist, from the top to the hip. And it's slightly wide at the hip, at the base. Okay, good. So you end up having a figure like this. And then just as you divided 1 and 2 into 3 equal parts, you divide 4 and 5 also into 3 equal parts, like that. You can use your own discretion to divide them, and then you connect this place over here. Connect this place as well. Good. Now we'll draw the arms. Usually the arms we represent them with just a simple line over here like that, and then we'll bring the elbows. For now, we are not adding muscles, we are not adding any details, we are just using lines and basic shapes to represent the human body, so that you know where all the right features are and get the proportions right. Okay, so this one, maybe you might not go beyond the base of the torso for the arms. Then you bring the elbow over here like this, and then with the elbow also, don't go too low, don't go beyond 4. Let's keep it simple and very proportionate. Same for this place as well. And always make sure that your drawing is balanced. You don't want to draw the elbow over here and then this one is slightly longer or bigger than this place. Everything needs to be proportionate. Then we just use a simple line to represent the fingers like this. Very simple, basic, simple. Good. Now our figure is coming out a bit, so we'll have to give it legs to support it. And then with the legs, again, just as you put your line slightly above 3, that's the same way the line at 0.6 for the knee, you go slightly above 6 and then slightly below like that. Can you please zoom in for me? Like this. Okay. Then you connect the hip joints to the knees like this. Always try to learn how to draw sweeping lines so that you get your line straight and accurate. And this one also comes here like this. Then you connect this one, this place. Bring it slightly below 5. Bring this one to here like this. Good. Now we are going to draw the legs and the foot. So with the legs, you might have very fat legs if you begin by drawing big thighs. So watch out for the thigh. Don't make the thigh too big so that you don't have very fat legs. Okay, so you might want to keep the legs very simple and normal, not drawing the leg too fat. Good, simple. Okay, then we bring the feet. And then you have a simple figure just by drawing lines and shapes. So now, since you started with faint lines, you can hold your pencil slightly stiffer and get some sharp lines to finish it up. Okay. Okay, so we have our full figure ready. Very simple and straightforward. Okay. So we move on to the next one. We'll do the side view, and you can practice with the front view that we just did. Maybe you might want to do a few more pages. If you don't get it right, don't despair. Just try again. Go over your drawings. You can take your time. Go over the lecture and start all over again if you don't get it right the first time. It doesn't mean you failed or you're not a good artist. No, everyone started by making all those mistakes. You just build upon your drawing and keep trying and keep practicing. Okay, so let's do the side view as well. Now with the side view, we are going to do two versions. We are going to do one for a male figure and another one for a female figure, because the male and the female figure, when they stand from the side view, there are certain prominent features, and even in the front view. But since we are just beginning with these basic shapes, I'll stick to just one model for the demonstrations, and then when I need to give you the variations of different body parts and features, I'll let you know, and then we'll do the two different drawings so that you can really get to know the difference between the male and the female figure. There are so many differences, and when we start adding the features and the details, especially the facial features and the body features, you tell the differences, the proper differences between the male and the female figure. Okay, even in the facial structure, there are so many differences that distinguishes the male from a female figure. Okay, all right, so let's start with the side view again. So with this one, you might have to divide your page into two. You put one line here and another one here, so you have the male here and the female figure over here. Okay, so just as we started with the first one, you draw your straight line. Good. Now you do your divisions just like the way we did for the other one. If you are not too sure about the proportions or the accuracy, you still need your pencil as your guide to get all those proportions right, just like the way we did for the first one. Okay, all right, that's just a gentle reminder, but I'll just go ahead and give all my divisions. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and 7.5. Again, you divide between 1 and 2 into 3 equal parts, so you have 1A and then 1B. But with this one, since we are doing the side view, we see the front view, the head sits straight in front of you because it's facing you. But with the side view, the head is at a particular angle. Okay, there's an angle to the head, so you don't have that front view again. So you have to draw the head slightly tilted to get that side view. Okay, all right, so maybe you can zoom in a bit for them to see how we are going to do the side view. So maybe you can just draw a line to indicate the angle so that you don't go off track, and then you put your head over there from the side, just like this. Don't go beyond 0 and 1. You don't have to do that, otherwise your head will look very weird. Go over your drawings. Okay, so we have our side view ready, and then we'll start adding some details. Okay, just as we had an angle for the egg shape, we might need a slight angle too for the neck. The neck will no longer be straight because the neck will also follow a particular angle. So you have the neck like this, coming at a particular angle, and the neck is rounded. Okay, is rounded, so you don't draw stiff necks with straight lines at the base. You have to curve the line slightly to follow. So you need a curve like this at the base as well. So you have something like this. It's curved. Don't draw a straight neck. It's curved. It's curved at the base to create that cylindrical look for the head. Okay, but you don't need this imaginary line over here. I'm just letting you know that it's curved at the base, and then you bring this one down here like this, slightly curved as well. It's not a straight line, it's also slightly curved. And then you get this line at this angle. You see the human figure, when it stands on from the side view, you might think it's straight, but it's slightly bent. There's an angle to it, and it's particularly prominent. This angle is prominent in people who slouch, people who walk like they're about to, or they are falling. But you're not falling. It's just the spine, the position of the spine that makes the body look like that. Okay, this one is also slightly bent or tilted at an angle. Then this one comes here like this, and you have this. So you see there's an angle, and you have this as we did for the other one. Then you have your leg. Then you bring your feet there. Simple. Then you bring your hand. Okay, let me just strengthen these lines a bit. Then you bring your arms here like this. Simple. Arms on the side. Like this. Simple. Okay, so we have our side view now. Looks very simple, and we are going to do the other one for the female figure so that you know the slight variation in the body features and the posture when you're drawing the male figure and the female figure. It's important because when you go out there, you're executing your project, your storyboards, your illustration project, children's book illustrations. You're not only going to draw men, you're going to draw women as well. So it's very key. It's important to know how to draw a man and a woman, or a boy and a girl. Don't be the tailor who only knows how to sew male clothes. Okay, learn how to do both. Okay, as an artist, you should be able to draw both the male and the female figure. All right, so let's do another one. The same process, same procedure, everything, but with a slight twist, slight variation. Okay, so let's do our divisions. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 7.5. Okay. Again, maybe you might do your slight tilt over here to get the X shape in the right angle, in the right position, and then you do your faint lines, your nice faint lines. Okay. Go over your lines. Good. Now let's divide, or let me number them so that you don't get lost. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 7.5. Good. Okay, and then we'll divide this place into 3 equal parts like we did before. So we have 1A, 1B. Okay, and then you put your neck there at an angle, of course, like this, and this one follows up just like that. Again, the neck is slightly, and with the female neck, it's usually slightly slimmer than the male necks. The male necks are thick and stodgy, and the female necks, they are slightly slimmer and slender and slightly longer. These are very, very technical variations, and you need to study the human anatomy properly to understand these variations. All these things add up to get your drawings look more believable, because you don't want to draw a female figure and the neck is there stiff like that. No, their necks are more slender, slightly slimmer than the male necks, and slightly longer than the male necks. So pay attention. Okay. All right, so you might want to slim this one down slightly. Okay, and get your curves right, and you bring this down a bit. Then you have your torso. The female torso is not also as big and broad as that of the male. You know, the male have very broad shoulders, broad chests, but the female is slightly narrower. Okay, and you have this here like this. This one comes here like that. And you have the hips. Okay. Now we are going to add a few more details to distinguish the female figure, but let's finish drawing the full figure first, and then we'll add those details. Okay, so just as we did for the male, we might want to add the thigh and the legs. Okay, so now we are going to add the breasts in front over here like this. Can you zoom in? Okay, good. I'm going to add just a simple small projection in front over here, and then we'll add some small buttocks over here as well, so we know the difference between the male and the female figure. See, lots of interesting curves on the female figure than that of the male. Okay, then you add the arms just like we did for the male figure. Yes, and that's it for, okay, so that's it for the side view. If you look closely, you see a slight variation between the male and the female figure. I think I'll put snapshots of this in your resource folder for you to have a look at it and use them as reference points. Okay. Your assignment for today, you're going to do 2 pages of the egg shape. Fill the whole page of your A3 sketchbook with egg shapes. You're going to do the front view. You're going to do 2 pages of the front view, 2 on a page each. So 2 front views on A3 page, portraits, not landscape. The egg shapes, you're going to do it landscape. You do 2 pages, you fill the whole page with egg shapes. I think 10 will do, 5 on top, 5 below, and take your time. Start with faint lines, okay? The egg shapes, you need to do it landscape, 2 pages. And then the full figure, the front view, you do it portrait, 2 on a page for the full figure, the front view, 2 pages, 2 on a page. And then the side view, you're going to do the same thing, 2 on a page, 2 pages, front view, portrait, and you're going to do both the male and the female, okay? So 1 male, 1 female, portrait, 2 pages for the side view. And that's it for today. Next time when we'll come, we'll do more exercises. Thank you very much.